When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
Wow!
A Lego set is a gift that always clicks. And clicks.
Watch out!
And clicks. For kids who love adventure, choose a Lego set. A gift that always clicks.
This is your daily news brief with Aisha Mehta and Karan Rao. And, looking through the stack of sources for today, July 14, 2026, it really feels like the whole world is undergoing this massive systemic restructuring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is like trying to completely rewire your house while you and your family are still living inside it, right? You were trying to cook dinner while the roof is just wide open to the sky.
Literally. And today we have 11 distinct news items to get through. We are looking at everything from local town councils to military strategy, volatile ocean blockades, and even how we manage the internet for kids.
Right. And in a landscape where you are just bombarded with breaking news alerts every 5 minutes, just memorizing a list of events doesn't actually help you navigate the world. So our goal today is to look under the hood of these 11 stories and figure out how these massive structural changes actually impact you.
Exactly. So let's just dive right into story number 1, which takes us to the Union Territory of Ladakh. There is this massive push happening right now for deeper democratic decentralization.
Yeah, so what they are doing is expanding the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, or the LAHDC. They are expanding it to 5 newly created districts, which are Sham, Nubra, Changthang, Zanskar, and Dras.
Okay, so soon all 7 districts in Ladakh will basically have their own councils.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a bit on this. When a government just adds 5 new regional councils, it sounds a lot like a giant corporation creating more middle management.
Right. It can definitely look like that.
Like, does this actually give real power to the local level? Or is it just creating layers of bureaucratic red tape that slow everything down?
Well, it is totally understandable to view it that way, but the geography of Ladakh completely changes the equation here. I mean, we are talking about roughly 60,000 square kilometers of incredibly challenging, isolated terrain.
Right, the winters there are brutal.
Exactly. In winter, some of these regions are cut off for months at a time. A centralized authority simply cannot manage the minute day-to-day survival needs of a valley that is buried in snow, 300 miles away.
This episode is brought to you by Credit Karma. When it comes to your money, Credit Karma keeps you ahead of the game. You can count on Credit Karma to keep up with your financial needs as they evolve, helping you monitor your progress and giving you personalized recommendations so you can make strides towards your goals. Make sure you're on the right track, no matter where you are on your financial journey. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on. Download today.
Choice Hotels get you more of what you value. Here's a little tune to help you remember. Same drive, different day. Don't you wish you were getting away? Pack your bags and come on through. Texas, Ohio, Alaska, we're up there too. Comfort Inn, it's calling your name. Save on the stay. Oh, and free waffles are yours to claim. Well, I hope you like my little song. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Ah, I see. So it's less about middle management and more about actual survival infrastructure.
Precisely. The mechanism here gives financial and executive authority to the people actually living in that specific microclimate. And this is all happening alongside negotiations for an Article 371 arrangement.
Which acts as a sort of constitutional shield, right?
Basically, yeah. It allows a specific region to protect its unique local laws and land rights from being overridden by standard national policies. So Ladakh is trying to architect this bespoke political structure from the ground up to fit its exact topography.
Which sounds like a really proactive, constructive way to build a system. But that brings us to story number 2, where we see what happens when that administrative architecture completely breaks down. We are looking at the ongoing crisis in Manipur.
Yeah, the contrast here is really jarring. In Ladakh, you see the building of institutions, but in Manipur, you are seeing a devastating collapse. The Kukizo Council recently had to travel to New Delhi to meet with the Intelligence Bureau director.
And they were pleading for intervention, right? Because there is a severe economic blockade right now in the Kangpokpi district, which has been imposed by Naga groups.
Right. And the mechanics of this blockade are just suffocating. Kangpokpi essentially sits on this crucial highway choke point. Because it is sandwiched between different ethnic majority districts, whoever controls access to that road basically controls the oxygen to the entire region.
And the transport of basic essentials has effectively just been shut off. I mean, looking at the numbers, it is wild. We are looking at a half bag of rice costing 3,500 rupees. A liter of petrol is hitting 250 rupees.
It is a total siege economy.
Yeah, a single gas cylinder is running anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 rupees. In some of these areas, residents literally cannot buy goods, even if they have the cash in hand.
And this illustrates a really vital point about restructuring. When local trust evaporates entirely, people look for a completely new paradigm. So now the Kukizo Council is demanding their own separate union territory with its own legislature.
Because they feel the current state apparatus is fundamentally compromised.
Exactly. The IB chief has asked for a list of vulnerable villages for immediate security deployment. But that is really just a band-aid. When a system can no longer guarantee the basic transit of food, the demand to tear it down and build a new UT becomes the only survival strategy they can see.
It really does. Well, local administration failing is one thing, but what happens when internal trust in a massive institution breaks down? That leads us to story number 3, which inevitably pulls in the highest courts.
Right. The Supreme Court has actually ordered the UP Special Investigation Team to file a status report on the alleged embezzlement of donations made to the Ayodhya Ram Mandir.
Which is just a massive scale of financial oversight. You have millions of devotees contributing to this trust.
Yeah, and now public interest litigations have been filed demanding independent inquiries, a CBI probe, and even a full audit by the Comptroller and Auditor General.
And what stands out to me here isn't some high-tech cyber theft. The mechanics of the alleged embezzlement are remarkably analog. The SIT has already arrested 8 people, and investigators found something like 70 suspicious incidents on CCTV footage.
Wow, 70 incidents.
Yeah, we're talking about staff physically counting money and allegedly just hiding bundles of cash off camera. It is a very blunt breakdown of security, and it has already led to the resignations of the Trust's General Secretary and another member.
Which is exactly why the Supreme Court intervention is so critical. The court isn't just punishing individuals here. It is essentially forcing a structural remodel of the Temple Trust's financial management.
So they are stepping in to impose mandatory supervisory systems because the internal mechanisms just failed.
Right. It is restructuring through judicial mandate. They are demanding a status report to ensure new safeguards are actually put in place.
Okay, moving from civilian and judicial reorganization, story number 4 takes us to a truly massive scale. India is on the verge of its most consequential military reform since independence unified theater commands.
This is a huge shift. Right now, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force essentially operate in silos. They all have their own budgets, their own training, and their own doctrines.
Which kind of reminds me of a corporate office where, the marketing and sales departments just flat out refuse to share their data with each other.
That is a perfect analogy, and it is exactly the vulnerability the military is trying to fix. Modern warfare is multi-domain. It does not happen in silos. And the catalyst that really accelerated this reform was the 4-day clash with Pakistan last year.
Right, because during that conflict, the service chiefs had to coordinate their responses out of this, improvised ad hoc joint setup.
Yes. And while it ultimately functioned, it exposed massive operational friction. The military realized they just could not rely on ad hoc coordination for future conflicts.
So they basically duct taped their communication strategy together while actively under fire. That sounds terrifying.
It is definitely not ideal. So now, the proposal heading to the defense minister plans for 3 major commands. That is a northern command focused on China, a western command for Pakistan, and a maritime command.
But how does that actually change the chain of command? If you are a Navy pilot in the Western Command, who is your boss now?
That is the crux of the whole reform. Under the new system, an integrated command is led by one 4-star officer who oversees all assets, so Army, Navy, and Air Force, within that specific geographic theater.
Oh, so one person is in charge of everything in that zone.
Exactly. The traditional service chiefs will retain responsibility for force generation, so they recruit, train, and equip the troops. But the theater commander controls force application. They're the ones actually deploying those troops in combat.
Separating the training from the fighting actually streamlines decision-making quite a bit. All right, shifting gears to our fifth story, India is also trying to navigate a constantly shifting global economic chessboard. We are looking at international trade today.
Right. The Commerce Secretary recently stated that an interim India-U.S. trade framework deal is, quote-unquote, ready. And the foundational logic of this deal is built on this concept of comparative advantage.
Okay, can you break down what that actually means in this context?
Sure. So comparative advantage basically means a country can produce specific goods or services at a lower opportunity cost than its trading partners.
Right, and opportunity cost is just what you have to give up to make something.
Exactly. So if India gives up fewer resources to produce, say, pharmaceuticals or IT services than the U.S. does, India has the comparative advantage there. This deal is about structuring preferential market access so both countries can lean into those advantages.
That makes sense in theory, but the timing of this deal leaves me completely confused. India is finalizing this trade framework while simultaneously staring down the barrel of active U.S. investigations.
Yeah, it is a very tense dynamic.
Like, the U.S. is probing India right now for surplus capacity-driven exports and alleged forced labor. There's a draft report proposing a 12.5% tariff on 54 countries, and India is on that list. How on earth do you sign a trade agreement with a nation that is actively drafting a penalty tariff against you?
Because modern geopolitics requires extreme compartmentalization. I mean, it seems contradictory, but it is actually highly strategic. The Commerce Secretary's approach is that you do not wait for the U.S. regulatory probes to finish.
Wait, why not? Wouldn't you want that resolved first?
Because signing the comprehensive trade deal is exactly what creates the legal pathways to resolve those disputes. The trade framework acts as a shock absorber. If you have a framework in place, you now have a formal mechanism to negotiate down or eliminate that 12.5% tariff.
Oh, I see. It is one thing to negotiate tariffs through diplomatic channels, but story number 6 shows what happens when economic levers are pulled using military force. We are looking at a highly volatile situation in the Middle East right now.
Yes, Donald Trump has announced he is reinstating the Iranian blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. He's imposing a 20% toll on eligible cargoes for safe passage.
This feels completely unprecedented. If international waters are supposed to be free for maritime navigation, how can one country just drop an ocean turnpike in the middle of the sea and demand a 20% cut?
Well, under standard international maritime law, they cannot. And that is exactly why this is triggering a massive geopolitical crisis. The mechanism of this blockade stems from the total collapse of a 60-day peace window that was supposed to allow for a permanent settlement.
Right, and then Iran attacked a container ship, which set all of this off.
Exactly. When that happened, the U.S. military responded with heavy strikes on Iranian radar and missile installations, and then they imposed this toll as a punitive measure.
And the economic whiplash is immediate. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just any waterway. It handles roughly 1/5 of the globe's oil and gas shipments.
Yeah, the market reaction was instantaneous. U.S. crude prices spiked to around $72.92 a barrel almost immediately.
And this directly impacts you, the listener. When that 20% toll hits those shipping lanes, you are the one who's going to feel it at the gas pump and in your grocery bills.
Absolutely. When a superpower forcibly rewrites the rules over a critical maritime choke point, it injects massive instability into the global energy market. The U.S. is trying to establish alternative shipping routes, but setting up new global logistics networks takes a lot of time.
It is a stark reminder of the limits of unilateral action, for sure. But shifting from global conflicts, story number 7 highlights what happens when international cooperation actually functions exactly as it should during a crisis.
Yes, we have the tragic news regarding the repatriation of 15 Indian nationals who died in a speedboat capsize off the coast of Vietnam.
It is just an absolute tragedy. This occurred near Phu Quoc Island, right?
Yes, a tourist speedboat carrying 36 people hit severe rough weather and overturned. Local rescue teams were able to save 21 people, but tragically 15 Indian tourists lost their lives.
And the victims were flown home to families in Chennai, Hyderabad, Thiruvananthapuram, and Coimbatore. But looking at the details here, it really highlights the immense, unseen diplomatic machinery required to handle this sort of thing.
It really does. You have the Indian Embassy and Consulate coordinating with the Phu Quoc Economic Zone, Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, local hospitals, and aviation authorities all at once.
Right, because when a disaster happens thousands of miles from home, you cannot just rely on ad hoc solutions.
Exactly. The repatriation of mortal remains requires strict legal documentation and medical clearances. It is a solemn testament to the absolute necessity of having robust, pre-existing diplomatic protocols between nations.
We really do rely heavily on those systems abroad. But back home, the most fundamental system we rely on is our physical environment, and that brings us to story number 8. Our climate is undergoing a massive restructuring of its own.
Yeah, this is a major concern. The Indian monsoon has officially slipped into a break phase due to an intensifying El Nino.
And the mechanics of El Nino are fascinating, even as they pose this severe threat to our agricultural economy. It basically alters sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean, right?
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Oncology is a key focus for Pfizer, with 40% of R&D devoted to the oncology space. Pfizer is committed to advancing cancer care for your patients. Learn more at cancer.pfizer.com.
Yes, it causes the Pacific to heat up significantly.
But how does hot water all the way in the Pacific Ocean stop the rain here in India?
Well, think of the atmosphere over the Pacific and Indian Oceans like this giant conveyor belt of wind and moisture. When the Pacific heats up, it essentially reroutes that entire atmospheric conveyor belt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it pulls the moisture-heavy clouds away from the Indian subcontinent. It suppresses convection, meaning it stops the warm, moist air from rising and forming the low-pressure systems that actually deliver our monsoon rains.
So it displaces the entire weather engine. Meteorologists are warning this is causing a pronounced lull across central, western, and northwestern India. And the downstream effects are immediate, right?
Very immediate. This disrupts crucial sowing cycles for farmers who rely on exact water timing. It depletes reservoir levels used for drinking and hydropower, and it induces severe regional heat stress.
We are literally watching the climatic foundation of our agricultural economy shift beneath our feet.
It forces a really harsh realization that our historical weather models are just becoming obsolete. We have to adapt our water management and agricultural systems to survive these extended break phases.
So we are scrambling to adapt to our changing physical environment. Let's pivot to story number 9, which looks at how we are trying to forcefully regulate our digital environment, specifically for the next generation.
This represents a monumental shift in digital policy. The European Union has just announced sweeping age-based restrictions on social media for children under 13 across all 27 member states.
And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is implementing this tiered access system, right? Like, you're under 13, your access to platforms deemed algorithmically addictive will be strictly gated.
Exactly. It will require verified supervision by a parent, caregiver, or teacher to access certain digital spaces.
The logic driving this policy is really fascinating to me. It is essentially treating the digital world with the exact same regulatory framework as the physical world.
Right.
I mean, we require driver's licenses for cars because operating a 2-ton machine at high speed requires maturity and training.
Right. So the argument is, why do we hand developing minds the keys to highly addictive, psychologically complex algorithms without any safety belts?
Exactly.
And that is the exact parallel digital psychologists are drawing here. The volume of data regarding online harm, from attention fragmentation to severe mental health impacts, has reached a tipping point where regulators just feel compelled to act.
And the EU is legally formalizing this concept of age-appropriate digital zoning. But they are not alone in this, are they?
Not at all. Australia, Britain, China, the US, and India are all exploring or implementing their own variations of restrictions on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. It is a coordinated global effort to rewrite the rules of the internet.
From protecting developing minds in the digital space, let's look at developing elite talent on the field. Story number 10 ends the news roundup on a note of absolute triumph. We have a historic milestone for Indian women's cricket.
Yes, the team just secured a massive 270-run victory over England in the first ever women's test match played at Lord's.
A 270-run margin is just staggering.
What?
It is the visitors' second largest win by runs in the entire history of women's test cricket.
Right. It requires absolute suffocating dominance in both batting and bowling across multiple days of play. And the individual milestones achieved during this match were just phenomenal.
Yeah, Jessica Bhatia scored the first ever triple-digit score in a women's test at Lord's. And then Krenti Goud became the first bowler to claim a 5-wicket haul there in a women's test.
It was an incredible performance. The match also served as a sort of changing of the guard, as England legends Tammy Beaumont and Heather Knight officially retired from all formats following the defeat.
Wow. And you don't walk into Lord's and dismantle the home team to that degree without a deeply reinforced structural foundation. It really validates the years of systemic investment in domestic infrastructure.
Absolutely. It shows that the talent pathways within Indian women's cricket are fundamentally working.
Sticking with cricket, our 11th and final story looks at how you purposefully restructure a team for a future goal. We're looking at the men's team now. Captain Shubman Gill is actively using the current 3-match ODI series against England as prep for the 2027 World Cup in Africa.
Right, Gill's approach ties perfectly into our theme today of building for the future. He is not just playing to win the current series, he is operating with a very specific, long-term blueprint in mind.
He recognized that the pitch conditions in England, like the bounce and the seam movement, are highly comparable to what the team will face in South Africa in 2027, right?
Yes. So he is essentially using these bilateral games as a live-fire laboratory. He is testing his structural integrity.
I notice he explicitly called Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma the backbone of the lineup, but he is intentionally blending that old guard with the new generation.
Right. He is giving players like Yashasvi Jaiswal a sustained run to build their muscle memory in high-pressure, unpredictable environments, because a World Cup demands peak physical and mental performance across a grueling 11-match format.
It really requires peak endurance.
Exactly. Whether it is a military commander planning a multi-front defense or a cricket captain prepping 3 years out, the core challenge is identical. You have to evaluate your existing assets, compensate for your vulnerabilities, and architect a structure that will not buckle when the pressure hits.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today. We went through 11 massive shifts, from the geographic realities shaping Ladakh's new councils and the tragic breakdown in Manipur, to the Supreme Court enforcing financial transparency in Ayodhya.
We also looked at the military tearing down silos, the delicate compartmentalization of U.S.-India trade, and the economic shockwaves of the Strait of Hormuz toll.
Right, plus the solemn diplomatic logistics in Vietnam, the shifting atmospheric conveyor belt of El Niño, the EU's push for digital zoning laws, and of course, those historic cricket blueprints.
It is a massive spectrum of news, but a really clear pattern emerges from all of this. As we watch all these global systems being rapidly torn down and remodeled, it leaves us with a critical question to ponder.
Which is?
How do we, as a society, best prepare our own next generation for a world where the physical climate, the global economy, and the very rules of engagement they will inherit are constantly being rewritten before our eyes?
It really does come back to that house remodeling analogy we started with.
Yeah.
The roof is off, the walls are coming down, and the kids are sitting in the living room watching us swing the sledgehammers. It is entirely up to us to ensure that the new structural beams we put in place today are strong enough to support the world they will have to live in tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. Remember, navigating a changing world doesn't have to be overwhelming when you take the time to understand the mechanisms behind the headlines. We will catch you next time on your Daily News Brief.